Hi everyone, how are you doing? Long day, isn't it? Yeah, you can feel free to move closer if you want. If you prefer to stay where you are, you can stay there. Just because, as usual, my slides will have some tiny details which will be more visible as you sit closer. I'm here today to talk about the team assessments. Probably, if you're here, this is a topic somehow related to your work. And specifically, I want to take about the aspects which make team assessments good, or that make them go really ugly and spoil everything. Very quick self-introduction. I'm based in Krakow since 3 years. I'm working in IT since 2014, mostly as Agile coach, Scrum Master, consultant, facilitator, educator, etc., etc. And yeah, this is basically what my story will be based upon. This will be really a mix of like my personal story with team assessments, because I have some stories to tell, and also about what are the ideas about team assessments I ended up with after spending like 11 years in these shoes. Yeah, and this talk will be practice-based. This talk will be based upon expertise of 5 different companies. Of course, I will not call them out, or at least majority of them will be not called out, but so that you know it's not just theoretical stuff. And yeah, let's start with the very foundation. Why do companies often want to do team assessments, or why we as Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, or maybe project managers may decide to do team assessments, and why it's better to avoid if you have some wrong intention. So as many people here, probably, I once started my journey with team assessments using the Spotify Squad Health Check. This is a very lightweight assessment model which was created in Spotify, like I think around 2014. And my intention when using it was to kind of provide the team with ability not to just learn some skills, or I don't know, do a retrospective on their last sprint, but I also wanted to give them an ability to track their progress over time. When I discovered this model, I really liked that on the one hand, it was lightweight, so it consists only of 12 topics, and all you need to do is just to vote on all of these 3 topics using like 3 colors, either like green, yellow, or red as a usual traffic light. And in the end, you get some results which tell you how your team is doing. I also like the fact that it was quite comprehensive. So it was covering the topic of teamwork, mutual support, fun. At the same time, it was covering the topic of health of code base or quality we provide, and even talking about whether people feel they're actually being asked about the strategic decisions the team makes. So when I conducted it for the first time, it went really well. The team really liked it, and we started doing it regularly. So the feedback I received from the team was that it was lightweight, they liked it. We didn't have to set up any extra meeting for that. We were just using our regular retrospectives for that purpose. And they were able to actually track their progress over time. So they were able to see, okay, so let's say when it comes to fun, when we did this assessment in July, we voted for yellow. So we had some issues. Now we did some intentional improvements, and now we are green. It was going well until it didn't. So as you can see on this photo, we had all the teams I was working with had their flip charts with their results hanged on the walls in the open space. And this was a part of the culture of transparency I wanted to establish. But very soon I realized that some of the managers who were managing the people from these teams, or who were managing the whole department, they were just walking around, taking a look at these posters and kind of comparing the teams between themselves, saying that like, okay, this team is doing good, this team is doing bad. So Denis, what we're gonna do with this team? And first of all, this was not my intention since the very beginning. And despite that fact, when the teams learned such talks happening behind their back, they were not really happy. And there were some unintended consequences, like fear, like sudden lack of trust between myself and the team, like avoidance of these assessments, and sometimes even dishonest answers. So that experience left quite some traumatic impression on me. Such a traumatic impression that next time when I joined another company and I was asked to do something similar but using a different tool, I was very skeptical and I was very resistant myself. The very first time I looked at this tool, and probably when you see it right now, it also feels the same. I felt that it was just overwhelming. Too much stuff, too much questions. People will not understand why we are doing that. People will be scared of it. And I internally was also scared that the manager is going to make some false assumptions based on the result of this assessment. But yeah, this was a good startup with a normal culture, like with a fancy office in the middle of Berlin. And after I conducted this assessment with my teams, like the feedback was indeed positive. So the team came back to me saying that, first of all, they finally understood like what are the expectations, what is good or bad when it comes to the way the sprint planning is conducted, what is good or bad when it comes to the way they collaborate with the product owner, and so on and so forth. They also appreciated the deeper system level observations, because when you start diving deeper into this assessment, you understand that there are several questions which touch the same issue, but from different perspectives. And of course, when you have several teams, you can then compare their results if you want to see whether you have some overwhelming issues across the company. So yeah, the feedback from the team was positive, but this time I myself was not happy. I felt that, first of all, this was still quite an overwhelming tool, which was requiring too much effort. I think first time we sat down to fill it in with the team, it took us about, 2.5 hours or something like that. I felt that this tool was also very generic. So for example, let's say if I work in a company where we have not single team Scrum, but many teams working with a single product backlog, how this tool will be usable, because it's focused on a single team Scrum. Or let's say if I'm working with a Kanban team, how I'm going to use this tool with this team. So yeah, I was very skeptical, and after I left this company, I just turned this page over and didn't come back to it until the moment came for a sudden realization. So this was, I think, late 2019, early 2020. I was investing heavily into my own professional development, both like time-wise, effort-wise, and money-wise, of course. And when I was attending the class in Agile coaching, I suddenly found a tool which at first looked quite familiar. So the tool was called Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. And indeed, despite its complexity, despite it having too many aspects in it, I suddenly realized that, well, this is a good tool. When I look at it, when I check the website, which you can also see there in the bottom, I finally understand, like, okay, so this is what it means to be like level 1 in coaching, or this is what it means level 5 in coaching, and these are the specific steps I need to take in the between. This is what it means to be a good teacher or bad teacher. This is what it means to be a good in serving the team or bad in serving the team, and so on and so forth. And despite the fact I had to spend probably several days to actually fill it in, to read through everything and put myself some estimates, I realized that, well, actually, when you see the value in something, it's okay to invest a little bit more time in it. The key question is whether you see the value. And this tool I discovered was right on time, because I was about to embark on my next biggest challenge in my life. When I decided to join a big traditional bank, which was starting its Agile transformation, and my role there was lead Agile coach. So I was basically tasked to hire the team of Agile coaches, about 20 people, to kickstart the transformation internally and to be responsible for developing these people. After I started doing that job, I very soon realized that I'm completely blind. I don't understand what's going on. And this is indeed the situation which many managers find themselves in. The CTO of my current company, he brings up this analogy very often, that imagine you're working in a factory. And if you're working in a factory, somewhere in the corner up on the top, you will have like the box like that, where you will have the managers sitting. And when they like take their eyes up from their table and look in the window, they can immediately see what's going on the factory floor. They can see that here everything is moving, like the parts are moving, everything is fine. Oh, there John is doing something with the factory line and it stopped, and there are more people coming together, so probably there is an issue. I need to go there and help somehow. When we are working in a technical company, especially if this is a remote first company, like as a manager, you don't have such an ability. You can't just look around what's going on in the open space and suddenly realize, oh, here we probably have an issue and here everything is fine. And that often pushes managers in the direction of starting to look for answers. If this is your situation, if you have managers who are asking from you some kind of assessment to provide this transparency, or maybe if you are the manager who is finding themselves in such a situation, trust me, the better way to fill this gap will be not to do a team assessment, but to have something like a metrics dashboard, where you have like key metrics you define with your team or with your managers, where you have like all this data collected automatically, brought up in a single space, for example, in a Jira dashboard, and you can analyze it as long as you wish without interrupting the team. When it comes to team assessment, the team assessment has a different purpose. The purpose of the team assessment is, first of all, to enable the team to improve consciously. And since my task with that team as a lead Agile coach was to actually take care of their development, I understood that I also need some model. And the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel helped me a lot. What we did, we basically took the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, put it into a Google spreadsheet, like made people fill it in. I also told them that, folks, you can feel free to spend the whole working day on that if you need to. I understand that the model is very comprehensive and difficult, but believe me, it's for the best. And when they did it together, when each of them did it, we finally had like the aggregated results where I could see, okay, how people evaluate themselves, whether this corresponds to my assessment of their performance or not. If not, I can have a one-on-one conversation with them on that topic. And I could also see some aggregated average results, like you can see here with this gray dotted line in the middle. So I suddenly understood that, okay, I now have a more clarity around what are the strength parts of my team, what are the weak parts of my team, and we could think together what we should do with that. Another thing I really liked is that it was enabling tracking progress over time. So when we were doing that every half a year before the performance review, I could see the previous results that people put. I could see what were the focus areas we chose last time. And I could see whether something has changed in the way people evaluate themselves, whether they still evaluate themselves like, let's say, 4 in coaching tools and techniques, or now it's 5. That lead Agile coach role didn't last long. I suddenly realized that I actually miss working with development teams. And when I returned to working with teams directly as an Agile coach, I brought that experience with me. So the next time I was tasked to do the internal team assessment, to create the internal team assessment from scratch, I took the following principles as a guiding star for myself. So the first principle for me I was sticking to was that it should be the team assessing itself, not somebody coming from outside and assessing the team like, I don't know, as some kind of expert, as some kind of doctor performing evaluation of the patient. So the format I'm sticking to right now, and this is lasting over the last 4 years, is that we typically have 2 sessions. The first one is to fill in the assessment itself with the Agile coach's guidance. And we are doing that for a specific reason. So that assessment, despite being lightweight, so having like 20 or 25 topics, it's still quite difficult to understand when you see it for the first time. And it's much easier when you have someone in the room to ask questions to than just to put any mark that comes up to your mind without thinking about it twice. After we fill in this assessment together, we typically have a second session, like a retrospective, where we take a look at the team results and we think about the improvement areas we could focus on. And from a systemic coaching perspective, like this assessment basically gives the team ability to see itself from a side. They can see how they're evaluating it. They can see that, okay, we have one team member here estimating that we have very good cross-functional collaboration and other people thinking differently. Why can it be so? Why one person has such perspective and other people have different perspective? All these things, when you just present the raw data to the team and you don't present some interpretations to the team, they typically pop up in the conversation. And if the team sees it and brings up that topic, the chances they will stick to the agreements they make are much higher. Another important principle, though I did not put it on the level of key principles, is that if I ever need to show these results outside of the team, I make it in an anonymized way. So even within the team, when we are collecting the data, we are not asking people to put their name or surname. We are not asking to save their Google account. We're just having results like person 1, person 2, person 3. We are not having names attached to it or roles attached to it. The same if I do aggregation of these results on the whole company level, or like, let's say, tribe level. If I want to put the results of several teams together, I don't write which specific team does these results belong to. The second key principle is that it should be lightweight but comprehensive, which seems a bit counterintuitive. So how something can be lightweight and comprehensive at the same time. But I think it's achievable when you have a proper balance. So let's say the company where I work right now, we have this assessment consisting of 23 topics, which is quite a long list of topics. But at the same time, first of all, we removed about, I don't know, 10 or 15 topics while we were preparing this assessment. Second of all, these topics are equally split between 3 dimensions. It's the process foundation, it's the engineering excellence, and it's cultural aspects, like we call it high performance culture. This provides quite a comprehensive idea. So I was able to finally fix the issue I had with the Agility Health Radar. Instead of just 2 topics related to engineering excellence, we have 6 topics related to engineering excellence. Everything related to code review, to quality assurance, to test automation, to blockers resolution, and so on and so forth. Everything is there. And actually, the teams like it. They say that when they take a look at when they conducted this assessment, they finally realized what's expected from them and what's good and what's bad. Like what does it mean to be mature in terms of blocker management? What does it mean to be immature in terms of blocker management? I will bring some examples later on to show you how this is achieved. Held regularly. This is, I think, still important. You still need to track progress over time. Like if with the Agile coaches in my team, I was doing this every 6 months. With teams, we are trying to do it every 3 months just to see clear progress. So we do a check-in, we discuss the results in the retro, we decide 2 or 3 focus areas we want to improve over the next 3 months. Then in 3 months, we come together, assess again, see if there is a progress and define the next steps based on that. This enables the teams to see the progress over time. Yes, that's clear expectations, as I said before. So here are 2 examples of the phrasings we are using in this assessment. And if you read through them, they're very, very specific. So for example, you know that if you as a team don't have any idea of how you're working with blockers, then it's level 0. If you have some agreement around blockers, but you are not visualizing them, it's level 2. If you are using Jira flags and your average blocker resolution time is above 5 days, then it's level 3, and so on and so forth. So you can see that at some point we are moving away from just subjective opinions, so whether it's happening or not, to data, whether actually it's not only happening, but also helping us or not helping us to resolve the blockers earlier. The same with, let's say, sprint goal. Like level 0 is when the team is not using sprint goal at all. Level 2 is when there is a sprint goal and it's something really product and outcome oriented. And level 3 is about the sprint goal success rate. So it takes a bit of effort to create such as an assessment. But on the other hand, when people look at the results in the retrospective and they realize, okay, so we at level 1 in sprint goal, what should we make it to level 3? They can easily see that, first of all, we need to start measuring the sprint goal success rate. Second of all, we need to bring it up to 80%. And we also need to have outcome-oriented sprint goals, not output-oriented sprint goals. This is actually working. Let's say when I was actually doing this kind of assessments early on, the feedbacks were that engineering managers were saying, well, this is a good assessment, it helps, but the team was saying, well, we don't understand why we're doing this. What I'm hearing in my current company, where we are rolling this out voluntarily, the teams are actually saying that, thank you, we are finally understanding what the company expects from us. What does it mean to be good in terms of sprint goal, or what does it mean to be bad in terms of sprint goal? Yeah, Still, as just with the Spotify squad health check, the results of this assessment are not tied to remuneration. One thing I face very often in the companies is that they have like two different processes. The performance review, where you're giving feedback to your peers and they're assessed, I don't know, on a scale from 1 to 4. And separately, there are money conversations, so where you're eligible for promotion or where you're eligible for a salary raise. The same thing happens here. We are not mixing this together with the team performance assessment. We are doing it for the sake of the team to be able to assess itself, identify improvements, and act upon them. And there are, let's say, two big questions which still bother me when it comes to team assessments. And I just wanted to bring them up in the end to share my line of thinking with you. Maybe you will find some inspiration there. So how to make it context specific and how to make it more objective. So first of all, when it comes to context specific, I believe there is no one size fits all team assessment. Like I remember when I only started, there was Spotify squad health check. There was also so-called Nokia Scrum test, which everyone was taking to assess whether their Scrum is working good or not. Then there was some different assessment, but in fact, you still need to add some local context to it. For example, when I and my colleagues, some of them are sitting here, were working at the company called PandaDoc, where we were using the large-scale Scrum. So we basically had several Scrum teams working on the same product backlog. We added a lot of dimensions related to LESS framework into this assessment. So we were asking not only about the quality of team planning, but also about the quality of the area planning. We were asking not only about the quality of team retrospective, but also the quality of the overall retrospective, and so on and so forth. So don't be shy to make such adjustments in your assessments. It's better to make it relevant to your context, even if you're not sure what you put there is like scientifically proven or something like that. I would say that it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. Second of all, balancing subjective and objective stuff. So early on, for example, with the Spotify squad health check, all the assessment was based on how people vote. So they just show the colors, we discuss, we make a consensus on what color we should put, and this is it. That was very subjective based, so people might have their different perceptions. And if it comes to, let's say, fun or teamwork, it's okay to be based on subjective data. But when it comes to, let's say, quality of code base or, I don't know, speed, you don't want to be subjective there, you want to be objective. This is why I'm currently, in my current company, we're mixing up the subjective feedback with objective data. For example, when it comes to assessing the speed of the team, we're not asking people, well, what's the speed do you think your team works with? We are taking a look at a cycle time. When we ask about like, what's the predictability of your team, we're not asking people how predictable your team is. We are taking a look at their throughput trends and then their predictability on the epic level. I believe that this is the right way to do it because there are just too many topics which cannot be properly assessed only with subjective opinions. So this is my current take on these two topics. And yeah, probably we arrived 5 minutes earlier, so we still have some time for the Q&A. If you have any questions, this is the time. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Thank you. First of all, you mentioned like a bigger organization when multiple teams were burning the same backlog. I have the same situation, and I would like to ask about like the kind of questions that are applicable for just, let's say, the small team and the bigger team. Yeah. How do you deal? Do you have like two subsets? Do you run two questionnaires?
No, since like, let's say all the teams you will be conducting it with are working in this scaled setup, we just put all the questions in the same assessment. For example, let's say if we want to assess like the quality of our domain level or tribe level activities, we ask about them in the assessment as well. If we want to ask about the quality of product preparation, probably like you will not be asking about product owner work because not every team is working with product owner on a daily basis. You'll focus more on like the quality of product artifacts, like roadmap, like OKRs, like product backlog. At least this is how we were navigating it in a similar setup.
Hi.
Hey.
How do you get buy-in from the team to commit to like more assessments, more tracking, especially when the team thinks that things are already going well, so they don't need to do all that, extra stuff?
Well, this is a very good question, because every time I say that, well, guys, we need to schedule this assessment with your team and it will take us 1.5 hours, the first response I get from the tech lead or from the engineering manager is, wow, this will cost us so much money. Is there some easier way to do this? That's why, first of all, we typically start with volunteering, and then when we conduct it with teams which volunteered, we bring up their success cases as a story to promote it on the company level. Second of all, like if there is not strong resistance, but just some kind of doubt, I usually go in a way of suggesting that as an experiment. I tell them that, okay, ideally this thing is supposed to be conducted quarterly, but if we conduct it this time and you tell me that this is bullshit, it doesn't work for you, we will never conduct it again in the future. But since I'm quite sure about the quality of the tool, I know that I'm playing quite a safe bet here. And yeah, and also I think it's really important to minimize the amount of time you need to spend on it. This is where balancing objective and subjective data also help. So when you say, let's say you have a set of 25 topics and 10 of them are not collected with the team, but you just look at a team dashboard and fill it in and present it to them, that already allows you to save a lot of time. So this is another way to simplify the data collection.
All right, that's a good answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Do we have other questions?
Going once?
Maybe on this side?
Going twice? Okay, then that's a wrap. This was officially the last talk of the conference. You survived it. Congrats, and I hope you had a great time. Thank you.